Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we'll be discussing Twitch banning people for offsite behavior and a couple of other things, so go ahead and stick around. Let's start with the only real news story we're going to be talking about today, and that is Twitch's banning people for offsite behavior. I will admit up front, I did not want to read this entire blog post for you, but I tried to condense it, and every paragraph had a really useful piece of information, so I'm going to read you the entire thing. I apologize for that. It may be boring. If you don't care about Twitch, skip this part. But let's dive into this. We are updating and expanding our approach to off-service enforcement, which now falls into two categories. Category 1. Someone is harassed on Twitch as well as off Twitch. When this happens, we will take into account verifiable off-service behaviors or statements that relate to an incident that took place on Twitch. For example, if we're reviewing a harassment report about an incident that happened live on stream, related or continued harassment on Twitter could be taken into account when reported to us. This is how our current off-service policy works in the vast majority of cases and will not change. Category 2. We will now enforce against serious offenses that pose a substantial safety risk to the Twitch community, even if these actions occur entirely off Twitch. Examples of these behaviors include deadly violence or violent extremism, terrorist activities or recruiting, explicit and or credible threats of mass violence, i.e., threats against a group of people, event, or location where people would gather, leadership or membership in a known hate group, carrying out or acting as an accomplice to non-consensual sexual activities and or sexual assault, sexual exploitation of children such as child grooming, and solicitation distribution of underage sexual materials, actions that would directly and explicitly compromise the physical safety of the Twitch community, such as threatening violence at a Twitch event, and lastly, explicit and or credible threats against Twitch, including Twitch staff. These behaviors represent some of the most egregious types of physical and psychological harm, but we understand that this list is not inclusive of all types of harassment and abuse. In order to be as thorough and efficient as possible in these situations, we're bringing on a highly regarded third-party investigative partner to support our internal team with these investigations. This partner is an experienced investigations law firm that is dedicated to conducting independent workplace and campus investigations, including those related to sexual discrimination or assault. They have deep expertise in these types of cases as well as training in conducting investigations with respect and sensitivity to all parties involved. This partnership will allow us to more thoroughly investigate and respond to reports of off-service misconduct. We've also increased the size of our internal law enforcement response team, which is extensively trained to manage sensitive, confidential investigations and partner with law enforcement. Additionally, we've created an email address where anyone can report egregious off-service misconduct in the categories above committed by a member of the Twitch community. The email address is osit@twitch.tv. Any info sent to this address will be treated as confidential and only shared with a very limited group within Twitch and our third-party investigative partner. It's important to note that this is not intended to be a substitute for law enforcement or other safety processes, and we encourage reporting to the relevant legal authorities as the first step in these situations. To report other types of harmful or inappropriate behavior that occurs on Twitch, the best course of action is still to file a detailed report using the Twitch reporting tool, and a member of our safety team will review it. Strong communities are built on trust, and we are putting in place a rigorous process to enable us to conduct investigations thoroughly, equitably, and with sensitivity. We will only take action when there is evidence, which may include links, screenshots, video of off-Twitch behavior, interviews, police filings, or interactions that have been verified by our law enforcement response team or our third-party investigators. As soon as I read this, my initial thought was, okay, that makes sense. Twitch doesn't want mass murderers, they don't want terrorists, they don't want predators on their website. I understand that completely. But then I started thinking about this more, and I'm not 100% sure about this. Reason being, they don't say anything about the investigative law firm and the system of checks and balances that they would be putting into place to ensure the validity of the claims that are being submitted to their email. They did say that Twitch would not take action without evidence. They said Twitch would not take action without the evidence. They did not say that their partner would not investigate you without first ensuring that the claims are valid, that they are not erroneous claims. You may not think that's the biggest deal, but to me, that raises red flags because I am a little bit more privacy conscious and I understand the hypocrisy of me saying that while I broadcast my face on the internet. I understand, and I'm also a little bit paranoid. If I was signing up for a website, a social media site, a streaming site, and the terms of service said as follows: by continuing to use this website, you authorize us to hire a third-party investigative law firm to conduct a thorough investigation into your past. Will there be any system of checks and balances to ensure that this is not being abused? We won't say. Now go ahead and sign up. And that is where my concerns arise. Great, Twitch isn't going to be banning people because they get false claims about them. But that doesn't remove the possibility of somebody getting a false claim submitted about them and then an investigation being done on that person. That is a huge breach of that individual's privacy. And it doesn't seem like there's any kind of system of checks and balances, at least that they outlined in this blog post. And it doesn't seem that there's any recourse if a person is investigated and their privacy is violated like that. Again, I want to reiterate that I completely understand why Twitch does not want the people that they outlined in that list on their platform, but at the same time, I'm still quite disappointed that they omitted a quite dangerous, maybe not dangerous, but terrible group of people. White-collar criminals. Why do the rich once again get free rein to do whatever they want and skirt by without proper enforcement? I'm quite disappointed by that, and I really look forward to seeing Bernie Madoff streaming from Twitch. Really disappointed in that. But with that joke out of the way, that was a dumb joke, I'm also very curious about what Twitch will do about false allegations. Will there be any legal action taken against those who lie and try to destroy someone's career on Twitch? In the FAQ, they do address this kind of. They state, our law enforcement response team is trained to substantiate any evidence related to user reports and will only take action in cases where we or our third-party law firm partners have been able to find a preponderance of evidence. We will also suspend accounts for submitting large amounts of frivolous reports or encouraging others to submit fake reports. And my understanding of this FAQ response is that Twitch just won't submit false evidence to the police. That's my understanding, and good. You shouldn't be submitting false data, false evidence to the police, Twitch. That's a very good standard to have. I just think that maybe even one false report, would be sufficient to ban someone because they are trying to essentially destroy someone's career. I guess the danger there is, what if somebody doesn't know that it is a false claim? There's the danger there. I just think it's going to be so easy to abuse, and it will be really interesting to see, and I'm glad I don't use Twitch, because I don't want to give Twitch the authority to just investigate my entire past and look through everything they can find. That is such a terrible invasion of privacy. Now, what can you as a creator do? First off, don't do any of the things that they list, because all of those things are terrible. Do not do them. That's the first course of action, and you're going to be in the clear for the most part. Don't do any of those things. Understood? Do not do any of those things. Secondly, you can't do anything. You can't do a damn thing about this. This is Twitch's terms of service. If you don't like it, too bad. Twitch just gave themselves the authority to run investigations on anyone in their platform. Anybody could submit a false claim, and as long as you just do one, it's fine. They won't ban you. There will be no repercussions for you. Just submit one. Don't submit one. I'm not advocating you do. I am pointing out the absurdity of it. Just one email claiming some false BS, and an entire investigation can be made into your past. That is wild. That is wild. And I, for one, won't be using Twitch. I will link the entire blog post, and check that out if you want to read a little bit more, even though I read you the entire thing. You can look at all of their policies and stuff. And again, I do understand completely why they are doing this. I just think they need to be even more transparent. They need to explain and provide information on the system of checks and balances that they will be implementing to ensure that it is not abused. What kind of system are you going to have in place to verify the claims that are initially made? If a claim is initially made, are you automatically going to investigate it only to determine that it was false, and then you have committed an investigation upon that person who did nothing wrong? We need that transparency if you are going to be rolling out a term of service that allows such overarching power, and it's just terrifying to me. I'll link it down below in the show notes. And that is pretty much all that I wanted to cover this week as far as news. Let's jump to what you had to say, and there was a lot regarding the dislike button. First comes from Steven. He says, I think YouTube is just embarrassed from all the rewind dislikes. Steven, I think you are exactly right. YouTube is a terrible capitalist enterprise, and they don't like the idea of the proletariat coming together to dislike one thing. Divided, we are weak, but together, we are strong. They don't want us to have that power. They don't want the entire YouTube community to come together and say, this sucks, because then they feel bad. Then they feel bad for making a bad and out of touch video. I think you're onto something, Steven. Secondly, we have a comment from Dan, and he says, enjoyed the video. I think YouTube should go back to the star system they had in the beginning, where instead of a like or dislike, you could give 1 through 5 stars, depending on how much you liked or didn't like the video. Dan, I think that's an interesting idea, and we have actually started to see some stars come back into the YouTube rating system, not on videos, but after you've watched a video, occasionally you will get a survey, and it will give you, I believe it's a star rating, 1 to 5. Was this video informative? Was it great? Was it life-changing? 2, 5, however many stars. If I'm not mistaken, we are starting to see that. So I think that YouTube understands the benefit, the value that could come from getting that more granular approach to how people view videos, as opposed to the white and black like-dislike. They can say, well, it was just slightly bad, 2 stars. It was great, 5 stars. It was mediocre, 2.5 stars. I think they do understand the benefit of that, and we are starting to see it. I think it would be interesting to go back to the star system. I don't think they'll do it. I doubt they would ever do it. It's too clunky, I think, but it would be fun. Next comment comes from Giancarlo. He says, I'm one of those people that YouTube picked for their A/B dislike button test. I have to say, I don't like knowing that my dislikes are not showing up in the visible count. It feels as if they could manipulate those statistics. At the end of the day, who cares? But still, as a matter of principle or transparency, they should display the actual numbers. Giancarlo, thank you very much for that comment. First off, I don't know if I'm mispronouncing your name. If I am, I apologize. You're absolutely right. They could very easily manipulate any of this. They can manipulate views. They can manipulate AdSense dollars. They can manipulate anything and everything. This is not an open platform. We don't know what goes on under the hood. I think it would be a little bit naive to assume that everything was completely accurate. I would imagine that YouTube has already been manipulating plenty of things on their website. I don't think that's a conclusion that's too far to jump to. That's a conclusion that's on the jump to conclusions mat that we just threw on the floor. It's got a mat with different conclusions that you could jump to, and one of them is saying, yeah, YouTube's already manipulating stuff. I would not be surprised I would be surprised if we found out everything was 100% accurate already. That's what I would be surprised by. Giancarlo, thank you very much for the comment. Next, we have a comment from Arthur. He says, not saying that YouTube is being honest, but people are very often less bothered by a failure than they are by the humiliating public display of the failure. So the quote-unquote mental health argument does make rational sense and is at least plausible. Arthur, thank you very much for bringing that up, and I think you raise a very good point that I had not considered. People like to fail in the dark. They don't like to fail in the sunlight. They don't want people to see how bad they failed. They don't want people to be able to point to it and laugh and say, look at you, you're a failure. And I guess that was something that had occurred. There were plenty of videos that did show up that had, look at how many dislikes this video has. Ha, they suck. Nobody likes them anymore. So I understand that. But at the same time, I still think we'll be able to get some semblance of that public failure. If we see a video with 1 million views and 100 likes, we'll still see the public shaming, the, look, you're a failure, 100 likes on 1 million views, so many people must have disliked you, you suck. We'll see that. I think you raise a very interesting point, though. Failure in the dark as opposed to failure in light can play into the mental well-being, the mental health side. Thank you very much. Next comment comes from Brad, and he says, if I go looking for an instructional video, the like to dislike numbers very much inform my decision on what to watch. There may be 20 videos on how to whatever, install a new toilet or change a garage door spring. I don't have the time or desire to watch several 10-minute videos and or read comments on said videos to understand why a video may be good or bad and what it purports to do. Further, I may not be informed enough on the topic to quickly grasp whether the video is good or bad. That's why I'm watching the video, to be informed. Brad, you raise a very interesting point, and I understand this point of view completely. I do. I also think that YouTube is not going to do anything that is going to directly harm their reputation. And if YouTube were to begin to get the reputation for promoting and allowing bad information to get out there on their website and actually promote it, where you install a garage door spring and then it falls down and chops your head off or something, they don't want that reputation. So I think we're going to see a lot more promotion of videos that YouTube has deemed to be authoritative and correct. We have seen that in the past where they have surfaced more authoritative content in terms of news, or I should say authoritative content surrounding the news. Maybe we'll start to see them surfacing authoritative content in other areas as well, because that would solve the problem that you have, where you just get high quality content that is accurate from authoritative voices in that expert field. You get the information, you move on, and then creators don't have to be sad all the time. I understand your point of view. I think YouTube must have had something in their back pocket, because I've seen this argument a lot. And I don't think YouTube was unaware of this. I think YouTube must have something that would allow them to surface that authoritative content. We already know they have those tools because they did that. They selected who the authoritative voices were. I think we'll start to see that in other areas as well. Or maybe they'll just abandon it because this is still just a beta test or an alpha test or something. They could just say, yeah, this was stupid. Okay, let's go back and leave the dislike counter. That's very possible. There's very few people who have this test rolled out. So we'll see. And the last comment that we have, no, not the last comment. We have another comment, this time from SoundSpeeds. Wow, we have a lot of comments today. Personally, I rely on the dislike ratio to tell me some things that save me time. For example, when I look up a tutorial or a quick fix for something and vidIQ tells me the like to dislike ratio is 8%, I know that there are over 10 times the number of dislikes to likes, so that's probably because the video is useless. Another thing that I appreciate the like to dislike ratio for is on news content. Since you went political, I will too. When MSNBC or CNN posts a video about Biden saying or doing something and it has a 22% like to dislike ratio, I've grown to learn it's because he said something to piss off a lot of viewers. Oddly, Trump on those very same channels had an average of 40 to 50% like to dislike ratio. When I watch any news outlets and see a coronavirus update and have similar stats, I know the new info didn't likely go over well with the American viewers. I've grown to appreciate the like to dislike ratio and what it tells me, as with the accurate view counter that was replaced with the summarized counter. I imagine this will once again be something YouTube does away with that I like and got value from. Alan from SoundSpeeds. It sounds like you have the exact same stance and view as Brad, where you would look at the like to dislike ratio on these videos, and then that would determine if you're even going to watch it or assume, okay, this is bad content. I understand that, and I do think YouTube must have some algorithmic tools in their back pocket that will allow them to surface the accurate information, because they will still have that. They still have the like and dislike ratio. They will likely surface the ones that have the best like to dislike ratio and the highest watch time and the highest view count, the ones that are the most helpful. And they have started to roll out those surveys that I alluded to earlier, where they say, was this video life-changing? Was it helpful? Was it informative? And I am guessing, now that I'm thinking about it, I imagine that those surveys are being used to build profiles on channels. And those channels will have profiles saying it was life-changing, it was informative, and it was a 5-star informative. So they will likely use those surveys to surface that type of content. And as far as all the new stuff, I really don't care about any of that. They could have a 100% dislike count, and I still wouldn't care what they have to say. They could have a 100% like count. I still wouldn't care what they have to say, because I don't think a lot of these folks I'm going to share my theory here. I think news went downhill as soon as social media started to become the dominant form of information consumption. The reason I think that is all the advertising went to social media. All of the advertising dollars went to social media because the targeting was so specific and likely much more effective. What that means is all the advertisers who were previously advertising on the news moved their dollars to the more effective and more affordable social media advertising, because you could target one person who you know will buy your product. The news agencies lost their revenue. That means that they had to jump over to these social media websites to try to regain their audience, to try to regain their dollars as well. And what works well on social media? Hyperbole, rage bait, fear porn, all of that stuff. Make it the most outrageous, inflammatory headline, and people will like and share it and post it everywhere. And then you'll get all those tasty, tasty clicks and views, and then you will get those tasty, tasty ad dollars that you had lost because you sucked at targeting your advertisements. And that is my theory why the media has gone downhill so much over the last 10 years. They seem terrible at what they do, and they focus on stuff that is so unimportant. They focus on stuff that does not matter. You're a professional news agency. You're a reputable source. You're talking about some of the dumbest crap I have ever seen. And it's all because, in my opinion, my uninformed, idiot, stupid person brain, it's because social media. They need those clicks. They want those free shares to get more views, to get more ad dollars, because they're desperate. That's my take on it. I know you didn't ask, but I just had to get that out there. Hopefully that gave you something useful, Alan. Next comment comes from Random Numbers. They say, can we all get together and press the dislike button for this video to show that it actually has an impact, because it doesn't change a thing, right? Random Numbers, you are an idiot. Last week, I talked about people having the ability to critically think. You seem to lack the ability to even critically listen. I did not say that the dislike button has no impact. I did not say that the dislike button had no effect on the video's performance. I said hiding the number has zero impact. Critically listen and then critically think. I guess that's my fault. I apologize. I take full responsibility. I did not make the instructions clear enough. I just said that people should critically think. I did not include the step that was prior to that, which is critically listen. Listen, understand, and then critically think. That's my fault, Random Numbers. You're absolutely right. Next comment comes from, but what does the Bible say? So, on the topic of starting streamers using starter microphones instead of buying an SM7B or the like, money is not the only part to consider from a podcaster's perspective. Time should also be a big consideration. If I use a cheap or inexpensive microphone with a high self-noise that I have to apply a lot of processing to just to get the sound quality that I want, that significantly increases my audio editing time. But If I'm getting an audio quality that needs minimal processing, it's worth the money spent. You can apply the same logic to every piece of gear in your audio chain. Also, nothing is unreachable. Sometimes it just takes saving up the money and patience. But what does the Bible say? Thank you very much for the comment, and you raise a very good point. If a piece of gear is going to save you time and energy and make your job easier, 100% it can be worth it. The individual has to determine if that time saved and that energy saved is going to be worth the monetary value that is being placed on the piece of gear. That is up to them, but absolutely that is something to consider, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Now let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. All right, welcome back to the Ask Bandrew segment. If you have questions that you want answered, head over to askbandrew.com. You can find instructions on how to send in audio, video, or text-based questions. I do prefer audio and video because this is a podcast with a video element. I like both of those. We get to hear how you sound on your microphone, and then you get a break from my voice, which is horrible, and you don't have to listen to me struggle to read, as I am sure all of you are just loving the idea of after hearing me read terms of service for 10 minutes. Anyway, first submission comes from Snappy, and it is a video submission. Take it away, Snappy.
Hello to Bandrew and everyone else who is watching this video clip. Look, it's a video clip. I started watching your podcast series a few months back and have been really enjoying it. So I have two very small questions for you. One being, how do you, stop neighbors from being neighbors very loud? Like, you know how they have the chainsaw? Sometimes they love the chainsaw. Also the leaf blower. The leaf blower is a nice one that they like to use, and even the lawnmower too. All these amazing things and activities that they like to endorse themselves with that just get recorded by the microphone and then really annoy all the people that watch my YouTube videos that I make on my channel, which is not necessarily the best thing. So do you have any tips on how I could handle this situation? I'm not sure if you have ever had this problem yourself, but the second question that I have, which is a much more, harder question to answer if you thought that was hard. I recently purchased a new microphone setup, and your channel was really helpful for educating me on basically everything there is to know about microphones. I know that may be a bit of an overstatement, but everything that I need to know about microphones, your channel has really helped with that, and your videos are really informative. And looking back from your old videos to your new videos, I just want to say your editing has come a long way too, with those new slick animations, with those title bars on screen. Very nice, very nice. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The main thing I am asking is, how much money do you think I invested into my audio setup just by listening to the audio quality that you are hearing yourself? I have not done any post-processing, just so you know. I will not tell you which microphone or audio interface I am using. I just want to... I know this may be a very tricky question, especially because I don't have the most average human voice. I'm just wondering, what do you think? Anyway, that is all I wanted to say. I will pass the camera back to you.
Snappy, thank you very much for the video submission. That is awesome, and I love the Minecraft. I've played Minecraft a little bit over the last couple of years. It's actually a ton of fun. Question: how to stop neighbors from making noise? Ooh, boy, this is a difficult one, and this is the scourge of everybody who records audio at home. If you're close with your neighbors, and maybe you're very friendly with them, walk over and say, hey, can you stop for a few minutes? I'm recording. Maybe give me 30 minutes. That's a possibility, but I highly doubt anybody is in situations like that anymore. People don't know their neighbors anymore. They just call the cops on them and stuff. That's all that happens now. Hey, they're making noise and it's offending me. Call the cops. What I tend to do, and I think is probably the most beneficial, is to take note of the noisiest times, because people typically will mow their lawn or chop down trees around the same time every single week. So I would make a note, okay, 10 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, they mow their lawn. Don't record during those times. They finish up by noon, but then at 2 p.m., Farmer Joe across there starts running his tractor and disposing of evidence with his wood chipper and chainsaw. So I only have the time from noon to 2 where I'm able to actually record. That's how I would approach it. I would go ahead and make a schedule. When are the noisiest times? When are the quietest times? When can I record? And will I be most likely to be uninterrupted? Of course, there will be the inevitable interruption still. There will be that person. Farmer Joe found another piece of evidence that he had to dispose of in his wood chipper and with a chainsaw at 11 p.m. at night. You're not going to be able to account for that, and you have to either sit there in silent fury, waiting for them to stop disposing of evidence, or you need to make a joke about it, or just edit it out. Those are the options that you have, and I will frequently sit here in stunned, furious silence, and I will mumble to myself and swear when I hear super loud cars, and I question, why do you need such loud cars? Why do you need such loud cars? What are you compensating for? Can you not get a proper muffler? What is your problem? You are a jerk. And I say that, and then I edit all of it out. I get all of my fury out because it drives me crazy. I edit it out. That's what I do. How much money do I think you invested in your audio setup? I'm just going to take a shot in the dark. I would say $200. I'm saying maybe an SM58, maybe a Focusrite interface, $200. That's my guess. Sounds really good on your voice, though. Well done there, Snappy. Thank you very much for the video submission. You rock. Next, we have a voice submission from Stefan from New Zealand. Take it away, Stefan.
Hi, Bandrew. My name is Stefan from New Zealand. Listening to your and watching your channel for a while now, and I'm starting to look at going into sound with podcasting and also getting back into music with some drumming and things. My question for you is, with starting out, I noticed on some of your reviews you're talking about for beginners, and if they're not wanting to look at some of the tricks of the trade, they can just use preamps and presets with some of the systems already in play, or then just using buttons rather than the old school mixers and things. And I totally get that there'd be a lot of people in the market that would rather just plug and play. However, I want to get into doing some of the sound works slowly over a period of time and get better. So my question to you is a few aspects, but how would you get started with using mixers? Or I'm looking to do more real-time stuff. I don't want to do post-production stuff. My podcast, I'm hoping to have some interviews with people, and I may have some segments and loops that I put in for my podcast, depending on the subjects that I'm doing. I won't go into those. They're probably boring for the audience, but I'm looking to start out. So my thing would be, what sort of mixes or what approach would you suggest starting out to help learn? And on both doing it live stream or live effects, and putting it into post-production later? Or would you suggest, if you're podcasting, to do it all in post and learn that way? Happy to hear your thoughts and interests on that, and take it from there. That'd be great. But that's kind of where I'm going. So I'm a little bit different to probably most of your people, but as I start to collect my gear and things, that's where I'm looking at heading. So any advice you could give would be greatly appreciated. Love listening to your stuff. Thank you for your time, and hope to catch up with you on YouTube or in some of your other formats in the future. Thanks, Bandrew.
Okay, questions about mixers. I am going to start by saying I am not well versed in mixers. I am no expert in mixers. I do not know that much about mixers. I have only reviewed a couple of them, and I have not stayed up to date with technology, with releases, any of that stuff, because mixers and me don't really match, not really my cup of tea, not really what I need for what I do. I do know The Yamaha MG10XU is pretty popular for around $200. Behringer makes some very workable stuff as well. There's Allen and Heath. They make great stuff too. And I think all of them offer USB mixers as well, so you could do that. The issue that I have with the majority of mixers is that they do down mix everything to a single stereo track, so you don't have individual tracks to mix in post if you want to, if you made a mistake or anything. If you're going live, yeah, that's fine to down mix to stereo, but I also don't like the lack of control of the effects. You have a 3-band EQ most of the time, fixed Q, fixed frequency. You don't have much control on what you want to do with the EQ. And if you're lucky enough to have a compressor on your mixer, it's going to be a one-knob compressor. You don't have control over the ratio, the attack, the release, the sensitivity, any of that stuff. Just one dial. Turn it up, turn it down. I don't like that level of consolidation of effects. I want to have a little bit more control over the stuff that I'm working on, which is why I do prefer to record each track individually and then edit it in post. But if you are dead set on mixers, something that you might consider is the Zoom PodTrack P8. That's the Zoom's response to the Rodecaster Pro or the Rodecaster Pro. Those will both give you quite a bit more control and allow you to do real-time processing. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the PodTrack P8 has real-time processing. You can send that to your computer for a live stream. You can do all of that. But I also think you're able to record multi-track simultaneously on both devices. Been a while since I've used either of those, but look up some videos on the Zoom PodTrack P8, and there have been some updates to the Rodecaster Pro. I should probably do an update video on that, going through all the new features. One of those two mixers, one of those two USB mixers would be my pick. Of course, those are USB mixers. If you're looking for straight analog, completely out of my wheelhouse. I have no idea where to start there, and I apologize. But yeah, as I mentioned, the reason why I prefer doing stuff in post is I like to be able to really fine-tune what I'm doing. So I will record raw into my computer, drop that file into Logic Pro, then add all of my plugins and make minor adjustments by 1/4 dB, 1/2 dB here, a little bit more gain boost, a little bit more gain reduction, all of that stuff. I like doing that in post, and I think if you need to learn what all the plugins do, it would be beneficial for you to record something, drop it into DAW, and then play with all the plugins to learn exactly what they're doing. Then you can apply that knowledge to your mixer, which is going to be much more simplified than a fully fledged plugin on your computer. Stefan, I hope that helped you, and best of luck on the podcast. If you've started it, let us know in the comments, and look forward to hearing from you. And the last comment, the last submission comes from Cujo. Take it away, Cujo.
Hey, Bandrew. Cujo here with a question about how you record your audio for your YouTube videos. Do you have any sort of audio redundancy in place so that if something happens to the original audio, you have a second recording to fall back to, or do you just reshoot it? If you don't, what kind of testing do you perform before recording to reduce the possibility of issues? Thanks, and stay awesome.
That is an outstanding question. I do not have any kind of redundancy in place. I do not. I am a risk taker. I'm a risk taker, but I do so for a very specific reason. The signal chain almost all the time is microphone into the not the universal audio, the Focusrite 18i20 into my computer, into audio hijack, record. That's the thing. Or if it's USB mic into the USB port, into audio hijack, record. Done. The reason that I don't have any redundancy is if I was backing up the audio. That would be running out of the Focusrite through a line output likely into an external recorder. That adds another possibility, another piece of tech that could potentially color the audio and affect the sound of the recording. And being that I'm trying to provide the most consistent reviews and comparisons that I can, I don't think that would be acceptable. If the video goes bunk, the audio goes trash, I need to refilm it. This is something that I had to come to terms with. I used to be somewhat okay putting out a subpar video, thinking, the people who are subscribed will be perfectly fine. They understand that I had a rough day. And then I realized, okay, sure, maybe the people who are subscribed, your built-in audience may watch the video anyways and say, Bandrew had an off day, that's fine, no big deal. But that doesn't take into account the people who may see that video as the first impression of you. If I come across a video from a channel and Kevin, Basic Filmmaker, I'm using you as an example, I'm giving you a hard time. If they were reviewing a microphone speaking into the wrong side of it and they left it up, I would say, okay, I'm not going to take this person seriously. I'm not going to take him seriously. And that is why if I screw up the audio, I'm going to just retake it. I don't care if I don't want to. That's the obligation that I've put on myself and that I think I should feel. Since I am trying to provide accurate information about microphones and accurate samples of microphones, I'm going to do everything in my power to offer that. And by having a backup recorder running a line output from my Focusrite into that other recorder, there's a possibility for additional coloration, and it's something that I typically would not use. It's something that I typically don't have in my reviews, so people would maybe get a false idea of what the microphone I'm reviewing actually sounds like. That's my take on that. And what do I do before recording to make sure everything's functioning? Restart the computer, then start recording audio hijack. Scratch the microphone to make sure the correct mic is selected. Speak into it for a few seconds, stop recording, listen back, make sure everything seems kosher, then hit record for the full episode. And I think that is it for this week's episode. I have nothing else written down, nothing there whatsoever. Go check out geeksrising.com, the podcast network. I have videos coming out every single week on podcastage.com. I have multiple videos over on podcastage.com, a review and a Saturday suggestion. Watchcastage is still up and going. Got videos coming out there every 2 weeks. I'm trying to do videos every week on Bandrew Scott, where I read a chapter from the Grimm's Fairy Tales thing. I'm trying to stay busy. All right. That is it. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you so much for listening or watching. And I apologize for forcing you to listen to me read so much today. I am sure that was painful for you, but let me assure you, it was more painful for me, or it hurt me more than it hurt you. I think that's how the saying goes. Until next week, I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you, and I love you. Bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.